Welcome to the Road Hunters podcast. This is your go-to source for incredible stories, diverse perspectives, and a deep dive into the world of motorsport. I'm your host, Jonathan Bennett, and joining me on this adventure is also Mr. Andrew. Now, each week, we will bring you exclusive interviews with passionate individuals from all over all different aspects of the racing community. And our goal is to showcase incredible talents, the dedication, and the stories that make motorsport so special to us all. I'm thrilled to be an ambassador for Driven Minds. It's an organisation dedicated to promoting and providing mental health support across the motorsport community. If you ever see any of the Driven Minds lot, or myself included, make sure you come up to us and say hi. And together we're working to break down stigmas and raise awareness and ensure that everyone in the paddock has access to the resources and support they need to both thrive on and off the track. So buckle up, join us on this exciting journey as we explore the incredible world of motorsport, one story at a time. So don't forget to subscribe to the Road Hunters podcast on your favourite platform, the YouTube channel, which also has additional stuff, and follow us on social media for the latest updates and behind the scenes. And this season, I'm personally supported by ABC Brakes and Carbon Positive Motorsport. So now, let's dive into today's episode. And we're back for another week, and this time we are with Steve Smith of Carbon Positive Motorsport. So I think it's a name that a lot of people will have seen, probably in the rally bits. I know you obviously also sponsor the Junior Swift Series, I think, in Rallycross.
That's correct.
In my beloved sport of Rallycross. And obviously you've done lots of bits and pieces with the kind of rally drives and people going on there. So today we're going to basically have a chat about what is Carbon Positive Motorsport, the ethos, what it is that I suppose you and your co-founder and director Paul Glass, I think
that's correct.
Kind of what it is that Carbon Positive Motorsport is doing to be able to kind of aid, I suppose, future and motorsport and what have you going on. So yes, we've got Steve Smith with us, which very happy to have you on board here. And obviously, I'm kind of converting this year as well and doing the car and covering the emissions on the car, which is excellent. And thank you very much to CPM for that. And I suppose just a bit of an introduction to yourself and kind of, I think we'll do a bit of an introduction to yourself. We're then going to do the quick fire questions, and then we'll go into a bit of an introduction on Carbon Positive Motorsport.
Great.
So I suppose your elevator pitch, if you will.
I suppose,
without the cheesy music in the background.
No, that's fine. I suppose let's go back to the beginning. So in 1988, I was lucky enough to land a job at ProDrive. Okay, so the ProDrive, that was, if you've ever driven past their old place at Banbury, I'm not talking about the new place, but their old place, the M40 went straight past it. So that was, ProDrive was there before the M40 past Banbury was there. I was very lucky to get a job there. Worked in the stores, and I'd left an apprenticeship because I was a bit dismayed about jet washing new Sierras off and Fiestas off, and not really learning to be a mechanic. And so I took a job at ProDrive in the stores, because they literally walked around the car and said, "What's that?" And I said, "It's an alternator." And I said, "What's that?" And I said, it's a brake caliper. "What's that?" "It's a starter motor." "What's that?" He went, "You got the job." Because I knew what the bits were. Straight in, literally took my coat off, and I was working. Literally after 10 minutes after the interview, I'm working with a jacket on, ProDrive jacket on. And to be fair, I've never looked back. So and as I stayed at ProDrive, I did a 20-year stint, and I was there 3 times. I ended up going back to ProDrive 3 times. It's a long story. We haven't got time to go into that tonight. But what it did do, it cemented me and the love I had for the sport and motorsport, and especially rally. And my background is absolutely rally, and I was lucky enough to be involved, in ProDrive days. People like that, for example, Lombard Rally. A lot of people that are watching this, that's an actual plate off Colin McRae's car. Not his winning car, but I think he finished 3rd or 4th that year in 1992. So I go back a long way with ProDrive, and I learnt my craft and my skill there. And obviously I built my passion up. We were there through the legacy days, through the Impreza days.
I love the legacies.
My job, ultimately, I sort of not fell in. I worked worked really hard, and I fell into a job of then selling the WRC and the Group N cars, and also supporting all the global customers with we had 10 account managers that reported into me via another manager, and we were literally selling cars, services, engineers, and I did that for a long time. And as you can imagine, I sort of bumped into a lot of people on my way, so that's incredible. I can go anywhere around the world and sort of bump into somebody. So um, and recently now I've done some. So in motorsport today, I work for companies like Lifeline Fire and Safety. They're a FIA fire suppression
Yep.
provider. Shift Tech Vehicle Controls, and I supply 7 of the F1 teams with very special printed parts that you'll see on the front wing that holds all the carbon bits up. Most of those parts printed by my company in Italy. I say my company. I actually represent them in the UK, but I've been involved in them now for 8 years, and they didn't have anything when they started, and now they supply 7 F1 teams and various advanced engineering companies. So my day-to-day job is a consultant within motorsport, and I'm dealing with OEM manufacturers from the likes of BMW to F1 teams to Williams Advanced Engineering to Formula E to Extreme E to World Rally manufacturers like Hyundai, M Sport. I spoke to M Sport this afternoon about a project. So I'm well in it, and I'm very lucky to be in that industry, and I know a lot of people, and So you got a question?
I was just going to say, because I know that, I always have questions. That's Andy often has to rein me in a little bit when the time goes on. I like tangents. So I was going to say, you have the Tree Group, don't you? Which is I think obviously you're the founder of. And when I was looking into that, I noticed that was basically that element of, I suppose, business consulting and kind of moving around. So is that kind of where you sort of built your own niche into this to be able to represent companies and get those connections happening?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, back in 2013, I left ProDrive. I was stuck in a bit of a wicket. I couldn't move on and get on the job I wanted to do, and I decided to take a bit of a sideways move. And I went to a company in Daventry. I won't mention their name, and it was quite difficult there and quite a challenge. And I just woke up one day and thought, this is not for me. I know what I can do. I've got a lot of contacts. I'm going to set the Tree Group up. And to be fair, me and another guy called James Walters, who's no longer part of the Tree Group, very good friends, but he's gone off to do pastures new. And the Tree Group, to be ironically, was set up as like grown branches about growth. Now, ironically, we set the Tree Group up before we set up Carbon Positive Motorsport. So it's quite ironic that I had a company called the Tree Group, and today we're actually planting trees through Carbon Positive Motorsport. So I am the founding member of the Tree Group, and I'm the co-founder of Carbon Positive Motorsport. And the two work very well because obviously we're entwined in motorsport. So every day I can have a conversation about maybe a GT3 project or a new rally car, because obviously WRC rules are changing again. They're taking away we won't go into that tonight, but they're taking away the hybrid, which I think is a complete disaster. Personally, I think they're almost coming back. But let's see. That's not for tonight's call.
Yeah.
I'm very lucky that I know what I'm talking about, and I haven't just set this company up to make a load of money and to offset money for old rope, because me and Paul Glass, and it's just interesting just quickly about Paul. He works for IKEA as an environmental consultant. So he goes, so when they do cardboard, when they're making flat packs, how can they make that more sustainable? So he's already an environmental consultant, and I've known Paul. Quick story. His ex-wife, my wife, were school friends since they were 4 years old. Obviously, me and Paul have known each other for a long time, and he rang me up just before COVID and said, I've got this crazy idea to offset motorsport fuel, but I don't have anybody. I know you've got a good commercial sense. Do you fancy doing it with me? It was as simple as that. And I just thought, absolutely no brainer, because at that point, nobody do anything about that. Nice. And nobody also, and I think even today, the education, we have to keep educating, and we haven't got enough resource or finances to educate, which is why I want to support the junior Swift Rallycross drivers, because they're at that young age where they get it, they know they've got to sustain their sport, and we're offsetting their fuel. And yes, it's costing us a certain amount of money. I'm very lucky. I've known the Gwynn family for years, and Pete Gwynn runs that with Sarah, and they do a great job. It is budget motorsport for 14 to 19-year-olds or whatever it is. I don't think, if you wanted to get into rallying or rallycross, that's got to be a good step. So why don't we support? That's why we support junior championship, for that reason, to educate, because they are the next. They are the future of motorsport.
Yeah,
100%. And when you look at, so I lecture in sustainable construction, and along that lines, that's my kind of background really, where sustainability comes from. And also in the research, what you realise is that a lot of it actually comes down to education now, in terms of we have a lot of technology, we have a lot of ways we can do things, but we don't necessarily have we've done things in such a way for so long that how can we maintain it while keeping the same lifestyle that we want, where that's that education where it needs to sort of come across, where we can still do what we want to do, but how do we make it so it's usable? So I think that's really interesting that you've gone into the sort of the junior aspect. A random question off the back of the hybrid WRC. What's your thoughts on the World Rallycross bringing back in ICE cars then, alongside the electrics?
Well, they've got to, haven't they?
Yeah.
I think that in a nutshell, they've got to. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's, for me, if you know anything about motorsport, you'll understand BOP, balance of performance.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I haven't looked into it properly, but are they running in the same class, or are they weighted? Because obviously there's a complete, you can put a restrictor on an ICE car, you can put weight on an electric car. So how do they? I don't know how they do the BOP. That'll be interesting.
It will, and I think that's going to be, so for what I've read so far, they're going to be in the same class. Effectively, the electrics are a bit heavier but got a bit more power. But I think the interesting thing for me is going to be off the line, and obviously in Rallycross that T1 is so important that you've got to think, can it, is the electric going to have that point where it gets that initial torque off the line?
If anybody's been to a rallycross meeting, and I'm sure you guys have, there's nothing like an ICE car on full tilt. On
yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And then when you see 6 or 7 cars all trying to kill themselves to the first corner, there's nothing like it. Okay, you can't even hear the tyres, because all you can hear the engine. Now we are. Let's just come back a bit. We are burning fuel for fun.
Yes.
Yep.
Motorsport is burning fuel for fun. So we have got to be one of the first sports to be able to set an agenda, and also and show that we can be sustainable and accountable, because we have to be. So, but I get it. Listen, I'm on petrolhead. Okay, I've been in rallying for all these years. I love the sport. I absolutely, I'll watch an F1 race. I'll watch. It's very difficult actually to watch WRC on the telly these days, unless you pay for it.
Yeah.
I do on my social media feeds share like a roundup of after day 1, day 2. I think I missed a couple, but I did the final day in Safari. I mean, just staggering to watch the Safari rally and the way that those boys drive. And there's no, years ago in rallying, you might have they are flat chat from the minute they go to the minute they finish. There's no let up, and the skill of a rally driver, I think, shows an F1 driver up, because of just that they got a co-driver. They've gone over the stage twice on a recce. If anybody knows that, they literally drive the stage at slow speed, make notes, and go over it very quickly. On the third or fourth time, whether they repeat the stage or not, the skill involved at that level is, the concentration is staggering. So it's no wonder when they go off quite big. But anyway, we come back. But I think, I think the World Rallycross, if they get the BOP right, it'll be interesting, and I think it will sustain it as well.
That's it. I think it will bring back some of the appeal. I mean, it was actually on the Rallycross show I did with Wes. He was looking at some of the social media stats, and it's actually pretty high, which I was surprised at. I think Hong Kong probably had a lot to do with that.
Oh, wow.
Because they're reaching over into those markets, but it was above World Endurance Champs, which is obviously massive. We were quite surprised in some degree, so I think it will be interesting. Right, Mr. Andrew, I think it's time for the quick fire questions. Although we've been talking for about 15 minutes, to get some I don't know.
I do
What is it?
like
Get
how you
some-
call them
Well, yeah, but they're not quick fire.
insight, I'd say.
Insight,
Yeah,
yes.
they're not quick fire at all.
No,
They make it the very brain teaser-ish questions, I'd say.
I've calmed them down a bit. They were a bit too much.
No, you have to be fair.
First, I've
Yeah.
tamed it.
I will say before you answer that Paul's the technical one and I'm the commercial one. So, and I'll be honest with you.
Oh, they're not that. No, they're not that bad.
If I can't answer it, I'll just say I don't. I ain't going to BS it. I'm just going to say I don't know. But
the more personal.
Oh, that's
brain
fine.
teasers.
Work away.
Yeah. So first off, what's one of your favourite cars of all time?
Lancia 037.
That was very quick. Fair enough.
Yes,
It has to
Good
be.
choice.
Yeah.
The skill
Very good
involved to
choice.
drive that car, Tovinen, those sort of drivers. I sold one years ago. It's a long story. Yeah, I had to go. I went with Mark Alain to go and see it. It was a very cool day. Yeah, we haven't got time for that, but yeah, yeah,
Maybe next time.
yeah. I sold one. It's just a stunning car. Yeah, it's just it's ultimate rally car, wasn't it? Yeah.
So, if you could drive one, where would you drive it?
I would like to say
seeing
Corsica.
everybody-
I'd like to say Corsica, but I'd probably kill myself. Let's go with Corsica because it was made for those roads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
To be
Down
fair.
for that.
I know I should say. I know I probably
you
should have
could-
said Subaru.
Oh, go on.
'cause- Sorry, go on.
Great.
If you could choose any celebrity to be your co-driver, who would it be and why?
Cool.
I like to see everybody's reactions when we ask these questions.
This is a good question. I suppose Mark Higgins is a bit of a celebrity, isn't he?
He's a celebrity.
He's
to
a
us.
Bond stunt
Yeah.
driver.
That's a good point.
I
Yeah, he
would
does
say
lots of
I'd love
stuff,
to have
doesn't
Mark
he?
Higgins. He does all. He's part. Yeah, I'm part of the. I do a bit with
Yeah.
the Bond film as well, actually, but I can't talk about that. But that's another thing.
His,
But I'd probably probably Mark Higgins because I quite fancy that.
skill and knowledge, like, or you drive it and just like be awesome.
He'd probably hate it.
Yeah.
He'd probably hate sitting next to me.
He'd do better himself. He's like, what you do and do like. So.
And I've helped him over the years, so I'd like to see him cringe a bit. So yeah, so that's probably why.
Like it.
Fair
like
enough.
it.
If you could compete in any motorsport event from the past, which one and why?
Whew. I think Rally GB. I think I'd love to do a WRC round in a Subaru. I don't know. I'd love to think I've got the talent in a WRC car, but I probably haven't. Probably a Group N car, but do the old school Rally GB with a really good team, a good co-driver, someone like Kat Lund. I've got to say that she's on our marketing team. Someone like Kat Lund, though, but a really good co-driver that knows what they're doing and can make me look good. And I think I was very lucky to work in those events from a commercial side as well. But I got to go to the events. They were long events, and they were, I probably Rally GB back in the day with a proper team and an old school Group N car. And I've listened to cars coming through the forest at night, and so there's something about that for sure. If you've been in the forest at night waiting for a car to come through, you'll know what I mean.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Good
Down
choice.
for that. I like that one.
If you could create your own dream motorsport event, what would it be called and what would make it unique?
I like this question.
It's easy. Rallycross. Years ago, they used to do Rallycross at Silverstone, right? And for a spectator sport, it was brilliant. You could turn up and see the whole thing, grandstand. I don't know why more circuits don't do it. I would set up. I'd get all of those drivers that I've just mentioned. All of the good British UK drivers. And I would do a Rallycross TV, put some proper TV into it, some celebrity as well, some drives, some celebrity rides as well, and make it affordable and offset the whole event, obviously, and and make it really easy to come and have some fun. Because a Rallycross, you can see everything. You walk, splashes, sensation of the car, noise, etc. Don't That's what I would do. I'd love to be able to get to organise something like that.
That is something
So-
I've said like before. Like, why don't they do more circuit rallycross events? Like, it just like the sort. I feel like
money.
you'd get so many more spectators. Well, I know, yeah.
It's
But-
all down to money and where do you put it. I mean, I probably have the conversation weekly, but that's it because you got incredible circuits where you could create. Obviously, Croft has rallies back now,
Yeah.
but obviously they're not wanting to have Rallycross back. Anglesey would be epic, and I believe it was once looked at, but there was some issue, or it was a money issue. I think Teesside was looked at, which obviously is more of a karting track, which would just cause mayhem. But I believe it had the ground's too polluted where they were looking at trying to do it, from what I heard. So it's been. It should happen because I think rallycross is the greatest spectator sport that there is.
Yeah, I think for a compact point of view, and you know, it's almost like Race of Champions. It'd be like Race of Champions UK. You just have to pick 4 or 5 circuits, make them double headers, so you get 30 cars run on a Saturday and 10 run on. You make the final on Sunday. Make it almost like a shootout sort of selection.
Champions would be epic.
And for me, just bring anything. The old Mitsubishi Group A Subaru, whatever you've got, as long as it's FIA homologated and it's safe and it's got proper extinguishers and seatbelts in it, and there's marshals there and all that malarkey and all the safety element there, then run what you've brung. I think they say, don't they, or something like that.
Yeah. Do you know what we should do? We should take all these suggestions that people have. We should take them all together and pitch them to some really rich people.
Well, MSUK. Go and see MSU. Go and see David Richards. David Richards. Go and see my old boss, David Richards, and put it in front of him. So I'm sure probably somebody already has. If so.
Well, yeah. It's a tricky thing, and it's like with rally actually. If you take sort of BRC this year, we're having the TV back. There's been a massive influx of the drivers, and I know round 1 wasn't ideal with the mornings pretty much cancelled and the things that happened there, but it was still an epic event, and obviously that was on ITV. It'll have had the second round by the time this goes up. I think the potential for it to come back, if you think Rallycross in its heyday was huge.
Well,
massive. I don't know if we'll ever get back to that.
We probably won't.
Potential.
We probably won't. I was involved in the BRC again from a commercial side. We were supplying parts and working for ProDrive, and that was in the F2 days, where you had the F2, and you had a good run of manufacturers. You had Nissan, you had Renault, you had Vauxhall, you had it was a good Seat. You had a really good influx of manufacturers, and you had also a lot of the Finnish drivers and a lot of European drivers came over and running that championship. I know Young Ingram won the event, and funny enough, we're just about to do an announcement with John. With John, that's his dad, with Young Ingram, so that James, so that we can offset him for the season like we do with Matt Edwards, because obviously Matt won at the circuit at the weekend, which is a much reduced circuit in time. That would have been a 3 or 4 day event back in my day, and I think it was 4 stages repeated twice, so very compact, and that's due to cost and logistics and everything else. And that rallies seem to be shrinking. Me and Paul have noticed that entry lists are shrinking because we work with. Remember, we're working with events to offset whole events. The whole event, and where you'd have normally 140, 150 entries, they're about 115, 120. So they're down on entries, and that obviously means they've got less money to spend and so on and so on. So we are seeing a little bit of decline. And I think it's got a lot to do with cost of living, and people have got cars and bills, and they're thinking, I can't afford it, so you have to stay in the garage for another year. There's got to be a percentage of people that are not just dragging these cars out and doing events. There are some people that are very lucky, have an amount of disposable income that they can use to go rallying, and they spend that every year regardless. They're very lucky to do that. I think there's a lot of people that can't do that. So we are noticing that entries, even though so more rally would have been about 150, and I think it was down last year. It was about 135 or something. So we're seeing between a 10 and 15% reduction on rallies. I know we've gone off piste a bit, but I think it's important it's important to say that. But the BRC, you're right, and I think there's 50. So I think Paul said, my business partner. I didn't check it out, so didn't have time to have a look at the entry list. But I think he said there was 50 R5 cars.
Yeah, because you've got a mix of the non-homologated ones and homologated ones. So you've got those ones that have, whether they've just been tinkered with or not up to date as what have you, and then you've got the I hate that word.
Homologated. I know, I can never say it. Yeah.
I can never say it right.
Yeah.
So I mean, then obviously you've got national and all that kind of stuff, and where my car is, Ollie co-drives in the Ginetta that was in the national as well.
But to see it, you're right. But to see the BRC come back in the way that it has is brilliant. It's brilliant. Absolutely. And I haven't yet seen the program. I know it was shown the other night. I've got to download it. I just haven't had time to see it, but I will watch it. And and I know that Circuit of Ireland. I don't know if that's televised or not. Probably isn't. I know the World Rally Championship. Obviously, we're in Africa, and where you can't easily watch that. You get download snippets and bits of bulk.
Yeah.
So rallying really does need to be on the telly more and more, and I think it's a sport that's undervalued.
Yes,
it's understood. If that makes sense. If I know they need to. I'm going to say this word. I know they need sometimes to sex up rallying a little bit, and I don't mean that in a TV way.
No, absolutely.
Because a lot of people don't understand rallying, and they don't understand how much work and commitment goes into it. So years ago, they would have done programs like they did a program on SWRT, that Subaru Award Rally Team, for people that don't know what it was, and it was a open the back door of ProDrive and Award Rally Team and how it operates. I think it's still on the internet. I think you can still, and it's a brilliant program because there's a little bit of superstar, there's the drivers, and it's the team involved and the pressures and the engineers trying to get the best out of the car. Okay, they might have a big budget, but like we've seen with budgets, they come and go. And you've got to be winning, even if you get a budget like that, you've got to be winning at that level. And I think it really goes to show the amount of work that goes into a World Rally Team to keep their parent company happy. ProDrive, obviously, they're all over the car. And so I think, Toyota and Hyundai, fair play for them committing to the championship. I know Ford is they sadly, and I'm not going to say this because they'll hate me, but I know Malcolm personally, that they do struggle with their finances because they're not a fully supported team, but they do a really good job at it. They do a fantastic job, and I know they're a great result at the weekend. And I know that obviously Rich is doing a great job now. He's obviously managing the team, but I know that their resources are a lot less than Toyota and Hyundai. So we need more manufacturers in the WRC, and it's up to the FIA to make that as cost effective it is. And I think this rule change, we'll go into it if you've got time. I think this rule change is trying to address that, but I'm not sure they've got it right. But what do I know?
I think that's it. Manufacturers are massively important. It's the same with Rallycross. When you think of the manufacturers, kind of came away from that. If you think rallying really, it's in terms of kind of selling that, it's an incredible sport with direct implications on road. And you take Hyundai's marketing with the N series of cars and how they've utilised that with WRC, and now you've got this complete change of a marquee of car where, one, they look good, they go well, but people now, when they think of Hyundai, they're not thinking of some rubbish Korean box. They're thinking of an N. i20N or what have you, and it shows that the potential's still there. But like you say, it can be sexed up a little bit.
But I think let's look at the cost of a World Rally car. Right, it's £1 million.
Yeah,
it's £1 million. When they have an accident these days, and you'll see why, the panels just fly off them because they're a proper bit of kit that's built now. Back in the day, you would have taken a Subaru standard body shell, spend 400 hours. Completely roll cage it, cut, make all of the seat brackets, put all the steering and the brake pedals and all the modifications for the suspension and subframes, and it was 400 hours. That's what ProDrive used to spend just on the shell. Yeah, take the roof off, put the cage in, put the roof back on. Massive undertaking. That's why these body shells are 75, 80 grand because of the amount of work that went into the shells. And I think the cost of those cars, and also you can only use them in the World Rally Championship. So Malcolm in the past has benefited from selling those cars like ProDrive did, like I did for ProDrive. We sold WRC cars to customers once they'd come out the World Programme. So it was an evolution. The rally team would get a couple of new cars. We would sell the cars. There's a commercial gain for ProDrive. Some of the money goes back into the SWRT pot, so it's self-funding to a point. Not self-funding, but it helps towards the funding. And Malcolm can't do that because those cars can't be used anywhere else. So the expense for a manufacturer is up here. And if they're going to sustain it and bring other manufacturers, I didn't even know. There's a story about an ex-WRC World Rally Championship driver that's actually going to be involved with a new team. But they were talking about that 3 years ago. If that comes off, mega. I know the drivers and I think I know the company is. But, you need something like Audi to come back. They probably won't now because they're going to spend all the money in F1. So who are those companies that are Subaru going to come back? Oh, can you imagine Subaru coming back to the World Championship?
Beautiful.
Just think about that.
Dreams are made of.
Make a really nice car, a nice road car.
Well, that's the trouble, isn't it? Yeah, that's the trouble.
You're not biased on Subaru, are you, Andrew?
We can sit here and talk about, but the FIA, and I think they've got Robert Reed now helping. So from a WRC level and also how can they bring more manufacturers back to the sport? So they've got to be radical about the changes. I'm not sure taking off the hybrid off the WRC car is the right thing to do, especially as we're trying to be more sustainable. We could talk about sustainable fuels, but are they 100% sustainable to produce, and are they 100% sustainable when they burn them? And the answer is no, not yet. They may well be in the future, and they will definitely go that way, just like F1 is trying to go that way as well. So I believe sustainable fuels are a great step forward. But definitely. Until they get into the Clubman, until they get into your fuel tank, JB, and they're affordable, and you know that it's self-sustainable to produce it, and there's no emissions when you burn it, then great. Then there won't be the need for carbon positive motorsport. But, I'm doing myself out of a job, but we're offsetting, and it's important to say this, we're offsetting a lot more than just fuel. So Rally Bay this year, I can never say it, Rally Cardigan, Rally Bay this year offset 125 tonnes. The fuel was around 60 tonnes. So they're offsetting a lot more. They're offsetting spectators' fuel to and from the stages. They're offsetting marshals' fuel. They're offsetting the generators in the service area fuel. So it's not just about the actual vehicle fuel. We're offsetting a lot more. And the reason why...
the embodied elements around.
Yeah, and the reason why I've said that is because the FIA, the MS-UK have recently released a carbon calculator. It's not well known. It's for events. So for them to get their permit going forward, they will need to have a sustainability package. So what are you going to do about? So if you want, so this is coming. This is what I think is coming. The MSA want events to be sustainable. They want them to be self. They want them to help themselves. Yes, offsetting is one of the solutions. It's not the solution, but currently today we are only the viable solution to offset said tons of said rally. And obviously, once you start filling that calculator, think about generators for, the ice cream van generators, the rubbish, the electricity, the marshals, the spectators, the fuel burnt on the event, and so on and so on. That's going to calculate to an amount of tons. And that's why Rally Bay last year, which is part of the BRC this year, we've been doing 3 years. And this year we'll offset them again, just like Rally Mull and so on and so on. So, and a lot of events are coming back to us to offset into their third now, and next year we're into our fourth year with some of them. So they can see the benefit of working with us, and ultimately the more tons that we offset, the better cost price we can obtain, because it's all about tons. I'd love to be able to offset 5,000 tons a year. We're roughly around 500. I think last year we topped about 800 tons, or maybe that's over the last 2 years, 800 tons. So we've got a bit of work to do,
Do you find as well that, because I know this certainly in construction, that when we're dealing with buildings now, that there's a sustainability package needed, and environmental, social and economical, because it actually improves the monetary value of the building. Do you, or have you heard of any stories at all in motorsport where either sponsors are kind of coming on board, or events where they're actually getting an economical benefit because they're looking at the sustainability aspect?
Yes, to answer that question, one of the sponsors of the Rally Bay Rally, Rally Cardigan, which I can never say the name of that rally, and if Charlie's listening, he'll just laugh at me. Charlie Dukes is one of the organisers. Basically, I believe they had a sponsor that helped them towards our offsetting cost. So the sponsor was brought in, and that sponsor, and there was a benefit to that sponsor. There was one benefit to the event because the sponsor paid for the offsetting, and I also believe for definitely for single drivers or events that are trying to attract sponsorship, then they can sort of tick that box straight away. And I don't just want to just say it's a box ticking exercise, but it's a lot more than that. Ashley Morris, great driver. She always struggles, has to put her own money in. If she can utilize, because we offset every single litre she uses. That's practice, testing, to and from the events, everything. If we can help her gain or bag a sponsor because she's got a sustainability approach about her rallying and she's passionate about it, then there's a benefit to her. And it has to be the same for events. It has to be. It has 100%. To be. And I think, like I said earlier, I touched on it earlier. If you go to an event like say you're in a town centre, you're coming in, the vehicles are coming into the town centre, they're running the stages. I would imagine that local communities or local councils or whoever is in charge of said yes, come and use our facilities. One of their questions have got to be coming up: what's your sustainability package? And they can say, well, actually, we're offsetting so many tonnes with a reputable company in motorsport that's working directly with motorsport events to offset said amount of tonnes. So so we're already seeing that events are getting the green light because of them working with us. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's something I know personally. I always wonder if this is because of my, like I say, research on social equity and sustainability and sustainable construction. It's a big thing that I have with. I knew that when I went into obviously the Clubman Rallycross and Rallying, I wanted to have my emissions offset, and I then also wanted to do something on the mental health aspect. And now I'm ambassador for Driven Minds. I'm obviously with you guys, and we're hoping that as this podcast, as myself kind of grows, and them two elements are always going to be at the forefront because they're so important. So it's good to kind of hear that you are seeing those links happening and coming through.
Yeah.
I suppose another question would be, we probably need to also define what actually is offsetting and carbon offsetting, because obviously we say it an awful lot.
We do. I'll tell you what I'm going to do first. It might be a bit clunky, but let's share this video now for 5 minutes.
Yes, forgot all about that.
We're going to share the video.
Just been rabbiting on for 36 minutes.
No, it's fine. Let me just make sure. While you're let me just make sure I've got it up here. Let me just make sure. Where did I put it? It's there somewhere. Hold on a second. Yeah. Hopefully this will just share my screen. You can hear the sound. Let me know. Just give me a thumbs up. You can hear the sound, and we'll get going.
Perfect.
Yeah.
The Isle of Mull in the Hebrides, just off the west coast of Scotland. The island has a timeless beauty, washed by the natural rhythms of weather and the seasons. But not always. For one weekend in the autumn, the Mull Rally roars into town. The rally is the longest, toughest and most popular closed road race in Britain. Around 150 cars compete day and night on sinuous strips of tarmac at speeds well above 100 miles an hour. This year is its 50th. Drivers and fans come from across the country, yet it is frequently won by locals.
What do you think the rally brings to the island?
Lots of money, a nice buzz, a great atmosphere.
The last bit of fun before the winter sets in.
They reckon it brings over £1 million in.
It is a thrilling sport, an indulgence, a pastime based around the internal combustion engine. Carbon dioxide is being emitted for fun. So, I thought I'd have a go.
Just press the launch button. Here we go. Oh my God! Oh, God, this is extraordinary. Oh wow!
I'm allowed in the co-driver's seat for what is known appropriately as the shakedown stage. dress rehearsal under rally conditions before the race proper.
Are you ready for this? Oh, here it goes. Whoa! John tells me during racing they use about a litre of fuel every mile. That's a lot of petrol being used in this game. Whoa-hey! Oh, hello, Hedge.
But this year, there is a difference. They are offsetting.
What we do, Tom, is we work out the average fuel consumption that's expected to be used by a rally car in litres, and we use conversion figures to translate that into carbon equivalent, and we offset based on that for the competition, either for the competitors competing or spectators or the teams, whatever way we want to do it.
They're offsetting around half the emissions from the competitors and the spectators, calculated at 46 tonnes of carbon dioxide. That's similar to the climate change impact of driving an average car for 27 years.
I suppose the question in the end, some people would say that, yes, you're giving this a licence to continue. Maybe for the climate, it would be better if it stopped.
Yes, and we could say that about lots of human activity in lots of sports, you know. As I say, the perception of motorsport, because they're noisy cars, they are consuming fuel. But, you know, if you think about the carbon footprint of golf, of football, we're all creating a carbon footprint, and it's good that we're taking responsibility.
I can safely say that was the most exciting and somewhat scary thing I've ever done in my life. Quite extraordinary. Honestly, the adrenaline taps just straight on. Ooh. And now we're going to go again.
The rally's carbon sponge will be a forest on the mainland. Trees absorb carbon dioxide as they grow. It's one of the main ingredients in wood.
Well, we're in the middle of a vast planting area. Be careful not to step on the new trees.
They're quite small at the moment.
So more forest means more carbon captured. And this year's Mull Rally paid Highland Carbon for a little under an acre to be planted and cared for.
It would be spectacular. This will all be native broadleaf along the lower side of the bank, starting from willow and alder and working its way up through aspen and oak and so on, up to conifers up on the upper reaches.
How much scrutiny and certification is there on these projects to make sure they're actually going to lock up the carbon that they promise?
Very high level of scrutiny. So all of these projects are third party inspected. There's an inspection after the project is completed, which has already happened. There's then an inspection after the first 5 years, and then every 10 years after that. Not just verifying the trees are there, there's enough carbon stored within those trees on the site.
Some drivers believe the whole sport's long-term survival rests on making this change.
If you look at Formula One, you look at the World Rally Championship, World Rallycross Championship, all those are adapting new technology, whether it's all electric, whether it's hybrid, and I think people are realising at the grassroots, at the national level of the sport, that if we don't change, there's not going to be a future of the sport for ourselves in 5-10 years and for the next generation.
Yep, push 5 right, don't, head over crest, it's 5 left.
Motorsport is part of the entertainment industry. Can offsetting and technical fixes stop it becoming a relic of history?
There you go.
I like that.
Yeah, and I think he did touch on some points there, which was about integrity and also certification. So Richard Clark is our offsetting partner. Okay, you need a special license to offset. We don't have one at the moment, so we're working with Richard Clark directly. We've got an exclusive contract for all automotive and motorsport offsetting at that Loch Ness project. To give you an idea, I've just touched on the project tonight. It's all the information, by the way, is on our website at www.carbonpositivemotorsport. You can go to the site, and you can also and I think it's 92 hectares. They're planting 100,000 trees, offsetting capacity of 20,000 tonnes. Give you an idea, we spoke about 800 tonnes this year, so we've got lots of capacity there. These projects are few and far. So I'd love to have a project in the south. I'd love to have an offsetting project in Ireland. I'd love to have an offset project in Yorkshire, in Wales. They are just not there yet. But at least with burning fuel in the UK, and as I like to say, we're offsetting it in the UK. We're not taking some rainforest from somewhere and we're claiming, and also we have to, what we claim, that verification, that certification is absolutely key. We spent 18 months making sure that if anybody says greenwashing, go to that site, go and visit it, go with Richard and see it, and like I say, it's inspected regularly, and we have to stand by what we said. To give you an idea, per ton, there's 413 litres in each ton of offsetting. So it gives you an idea. For a Dakar, we offset. Let's put it into contents. So a Dakar vehicle used 4,500 litres just over one event. So that Dakar, which is a 10-day rally, used 4,500 litres. Divide that by 413. That's just under 11 tonnes of offsetting. So we offset 11 tonnes for one car. And imagine how many cars are in Dakar, and we offset one car. Now, I appreciate that event was not in the UK, so we have a European project, which is just high scrutiny, high certification, which we use as well. So we're trying to find more projects in the UK for sure, and they're not easy to find, and also in Europe. So Richard's job is to find us those projects, and he's a zoologist. He has been for the last 30 years, so his credentials are massive. And if you give you an idea, the first time I met him, he said to me, we grow aspen trees because they're not just growing trees, they're rewilding. They're bringing back species to the area as well as trees in the ground. And they're also, so he'll grow aspen trees by the side of a lake, which reduces the temperature by 5 degrees to help salmon spawn. So just things like that, they're looking to bring back.
Nice.
They're looking to bring back, creatures into the area that have not been there.
Yeah, the biodiversity of the country.
Yeah, it's not just about bunging some trees in the field and let them get on with it. It's much more.
That's
complicated.
what I was just about to say. It's
much
not
more
just what everybody thinks. Just planting some trees.
And also remember, we're offsetting 200% now. You might have seen some of our PR. So we've got carbon reduction units, and let me just read this out because it make more sense. Carbon reduction units, right? These are carbon offsetting units created by carbon offsetting projects that have been independently verified and audited to have created carbon capture or for avoidance CRUs. You can legally promote that you have offset your carbon emissions. So we use 100% mix of CRUs and also PRUs. Okay, so a project issuing unit, these are carbon offsetting units which are in development to become CRUs in the future. So we're offsetting now, today, and also our PRUs that we're buying are going to offset in the future. So as these trees develop and so on, so they'll be offsetting now. So when we say we're offsetting at 200%, we're offsetting now and in the future as well. So that carbon reduction units and those project issuing units are really key to what we're trying to do.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think, and also having that the local impacts, like you say, it's still in the UK. It's having that biodiversity impact because when we. I've gone too much a tangent again, but I know whenever I say to my students, like, we're in a job that's potentially one of the only people who can make a difference in ATs, because you've got to look at, it's not just, like you say, planting some trees in a field. It's about how are we actually doing, how are we rebuilding. If you take Scotland, most of it was a forest, and no, it's not. So it's actually almost going back to what it was and what worked. On that biodiversity. Where do you see, I suppose, the future going of offsetting or other technologies linked to kind of motorsport? Do you see, or what do you preempt happening in the future?
Good question. I think one, we did touch on sustainable fuels later. That has to come, and I know that the governing body MS UK are people pushing like Corsten, which I know that they're involved in some sustainable fuels. I think I've got that right, Corsten or Corsten. That they're involved in sustainable. They have to push that to make it more cost effective, but they also have to be 100% sustainable. And I don't know when we're going to be there. I'd like to see, from a supply point of view, I'd like to see a lot more. And I think the FAA are probably going to come down at some point. Because it's going to trickle down to supplies. Companies like Lifeline that I work for, how are they being sustainable when they're making their motorsport projects? How are they offsetting their electric? How are they offsetting, what are they doing to be more sustainable? I'm not just talking about Lifeline, I'm talking about rally seat manufacturers, race seat manufacturers, helmet manufacturers. Is the FIA going to impose some sanctions? Big strong word.
I mean, the construction industry is kind of starting to do that now as well, because a lot of the stuff that I'm sort of bigger projects with the bigger like main contractors, they're all asking what manufacturers are you using, what are they doing like carbon wise. So it's a big thing like our company that we're carbon neutral, that a lot of main contractors are like, yeah, we want to use you because you're the only ones that do that.
Yeah,
so I think it's
absolutely.
the same sort of thing, isn't it?
Well, it impacts us in every element. You could tell Simon if he wants a shout out as well, he can sponsor us, Andrew. I used to work with Andrew at the same company, manufacturing, and then I've obviously gone to work at the uni. But it impacts on every kind of life we've got, and if, like I said, it's not just environmental, it's social, it's economical. There's this triple bottom line to everything that actually goes on in life in every aspect of field that we work in. So it is interesting.
Yeah, I think, to the avoidance of doubt, and it is coming. I think the MS UK have got a sustainability plan. They're putting people in place. They've got a carbon calculator for events to use. And this is not a dig at race circuits. We struggle to work with race circuits, and unless we're literally offsetting, unless we're putting our hand in the pocket to offset it. Rallying has taken offsetting with carbon positive motorsport a lot more. They get it, they understand it, and I think because it's more road based and they're going into rural places, they're trying to protect their sport. I think the circuits have got, and it's not just, I can't quite believe that we're the only people offering a sustainable solution for companies that want to offset an amount, or events that want to offset amount of tonnage with us, whether it's 10 tons or 100 tons. I think a lot of events think, well, let's just start. And just give you a quick idea, we start at the lower level. We just say to events, okay, well, why don't you make it opt-in? So when they go on their entry list, they tick, obviously they have to tick their entry and so on. Tick it in. Do you want to offset your event? Just like when you book a flight. Okay, so that's a really first early step about educating and bringing people. And then people think, okay, and remember, we're talking £15 a car. Okay, an average offset for a rally car with 150 cars on a 50-60 mile an hour, a 50-60 mile event with say 100 road miles is around £15 a car. Okay, we're trying to keep it around that. Sometimes it'll be a little bit more. More rallies, quite a long rally, so that can be £19-20 a car. But we're not talking. When you look at entry fees at £1,000, we've got a small fee.
It's a fraction.
Okay. Yeah. It is a fraction, but remember, everything's going up. So the avoidance, so people think they can get away with 20 quid, they will. There's the first option. And we saw the adoption of this, quite key to me continue this. The adoption of this was very, very low because people didn't need to tick it, right? So there's option one. And I said, okay, well, let's do it another way. I want you to make it mandatory tick in, but people have to untick it. Okay, so this is the other way around. So people have to go and actually untick it. And then there's a third option where we just say, sod it, let's just work with a sponsor, or let's just put £15 on the price of the entry. So the entry is 855, she's now 865, and we offset the whole thing, or we offset all the rally car fuel. And that way then the event's got a story and it's got a package to start. And they can build on that. And just like Rally Bay have done, they built on it. They could have just probably offset 50-60 tons. I just said to them one day, let's just do 100 tons and be done with it. We actually, because at that point we're doing 125%, and now we do 200%. We actually we cocked up, and we had to offset another 25 tons. But that came out of our pocket, but that's fine. We covered that. But it meant that event offset 125 tons, and they offset a lot more. They probably gave back. They offset more than what they actually burned. Does that make sense? Their CO2 back was more, and that's what carbon positive motorsport. We're being positive. We're putting more back than what we're taking. That's what it's all about. It's putting more back. So if we can always put more back, and the only way we're going to get that to a more and I don't think the cost of our offsetting it's not massive, but it is like everything else. It's an on cost to the competitor. But I think if the event are trying to do things, they're trying to sustain their event, make sure that they are trying to build a story that's credible and sustainable, then that's what they continue to work with us year on year on. And like we said earlier, we're into some of our events. We're coming into our 4th year, and I'm very proud of that fact that we started from nowhere really. We've now got events coming back to us year on year on. So I'm very proud of the team behind us.
Yeah, and that shows that it works. I suppose it shows that it's easy to do and easy to deal with you if you're coming back and and doing it again. So I think that's really positive. You were saying about how you're finding sometimes a little bit with the circuits are a bit more difficult. What do you find as the overall feeling from events, let's say, to dealing with you? Is there barriers in place that you frequently come up against, other than obviously I suppose that additional money, or is it an education thing where they're not really like, well, what's the point, do we really need to do that, or is it being seen that people are really thinking, this is something we need to do for the future of our sport, or we need to do it to, even if it is a tick boxing exercise to keep MSA UK happy or to keep the council happy or whatever it's going to be? What's that kind of, I suppose, the vibes that you're having at the moment?
Good, it's a good question, and I think it's a multiple answer. There's not one answer. I think you've touched on a lot of points. I think that genuinely the events that we work with, I'm going to say that because they come year on. I think they're really trying to make a difference, and they're really trying to sustain it. There's a couple of events, I'm not going to name names, that just are not going to. They don't need. It's not mandatory, remember, and I don't want to force our business on anybody. Okay, we want to pull people on the bus. We don't want to push them. Okay, we don't want to say you've got to get on that bus. We want to say, yeah, you need some help. Come to us. What are you trying to achieve, and how do you want to achieve that, and can we help you on your journey? And it's not just about offsetting with carbon positive motorsport. It's can you use less paper on the event? Can you keep the road mileage down? For how many event cars have you got? Can you use less cars? It's all those things. It's not just one thing that carbon positive motorsport can offset. They've got to have a more sustainable approach about the event. And I think there's a first for rally events to be, and I think they all tried it. I'll be honest with you, I love this about them. They all trying to compete against each other, so they're all trying to offset more than what the other rally's doing. So that shows. That shows, and there probably should be a prize for an event that's done its utmost to become really sustainable. I think maybe the MSA need to do a prize, and not just about offsetting, but being more sustainable overall. I think there are certainly a number of events that are working with local projects, and I hate to say this, they're not verified and they're not certified, and they teamed up with a local project to offset it. And as much as I say, yeah, at least you're doing something, I don't see that's not being, what's the word I'm looking for? There's no certification, there's no verification. It almost, it's a bit greenwashing. I hate to say it. And you're back to that. I've ticked the box thing. I didn't want to say that.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Obviously, that's something
I think there's an element of that. And then there's some events that are not going to do anything until they're told to do something.
Yeah, until they have to. Yeah, I think, like you say, with the greenwashing element, it's something that comes up an awful lot in construction. And that is because sometimes it is very much a tick boxing exercise. But, I think depends what it is. A developer's now starting to see the fact they can make more money from it, and to see the positives of it. So you're getting different aspects from it, and I think it's good. So as a company at the CPM, then do you? And obviously you're saying with Paul's background as well. Is there also a kind of I suppose consultancy element to it, where they can kind of bounce ideas to help them with their overall sustainability, while CPM is obviously doing the offsetting?
Yeah, I think we touched on that about the future. Just interesting about Paul, actually, he's got more Lada rally cars than anybody. He's got 7 or 8 Lada rally cars. He is the Lada. He's Mr. Lada. Okay, he's in Inverness. He's not far from that project. He's like, when he comes to see me, it's like he might as well come from Belgium. He's that far away in Inverness. He's doing the snowman rally this year because they've put it back to later in the year. He hasn't been rallying. He is a rally driver. Okay, he just rally these Ladas.
Cool.
So let's just important. I meant to say that. So Paul is a man of the sport, and this is, he'll tell you that he was at Rally Eiffel in Germany. He had his 2 little kids, and he thought, my God, and he was watching Group B cars running around this sort of arena, and he thought, my God, is this going to be here for my kids when they grow up? And that's what made him look to do something. So he was with his kids at the time when he had this idea, but
Love
he's
it.
the rally
Yeah.
guy through and through. But yes, you're right. I think remember that, and I hate to say this, CPM currently, if you can go onto we're a limited company, so everything's there to see. Currently, we'll make another loss again last year. Me and Paul are putting our own money in. We're not taking any salary, any dividend. We pay our marketing people. We pay our offsetting fees. Yes, we make some money, but everything goes back into the company. Me and Paul haven't taken a penny out of this company. It's not about that in the minute. The company has to sustain itself. To be a sustainable company, we have to sustain itself. It's got to pay its bills at some point. I think this is probably one of the first years we may not have to put our own money into it, but there are some times where it gets a bit tight, and that's just the way it is. And we'll make another loss again this year. It's all on public records for people to go and see that if they want to. But I think, and I'd love to spend more time on CPM, but currently what pays my mortgage and keeps my lights on, so to speak, is my consultancy job, and that has to take precedence. So, which is why we do a lot of work in the evening and weekends, and the more events that work with CPM, then the more structure we can put into the company, and we can, we're not going anywhere. We can sustain it. There's not a problem at all to sustain the company. We've got plans for the company, but we've got to work with a lot more events. We've got to work with a lot more race circuits, race championships, bike, karting, truck racing. There's a whole genre of race and rally applications in the UK currently today, and God knows how many license holders. So if we can just get a proportion of that, then we can then that will give us more time to actually sit with an event and say, what are you trying to achieve and how do we help you get there? Because I truly believe that we need the right caliber of people around us as well. Just like the FIA have taken Robert Reed in, Richard Beard's co-driver. You need to get the right caliber of people in that can support you. I'm going to say it. I've been in this. I'm 55 years old. I've been in this sport 37 years. I am an expert with what I do because I really believe, and I've been at it long enough, so I know how to do my job. And we need to find good people like that in the future that can help these events grow, and how do they and be part of their rally plans as well. So I think there are some events where we're certainly part of those plans at the beginning, and that's great. And we're learning how else can we help these events. And I think you touched on it earlier, Andy. Can we make sustainable tie wraps? Can you imagine how many tie wraps are used on a race car? On a race car, right? Somebody needs to do this because thousands and thousands of tie wraps are on a race and rally car when they're built, and they cut them off most weekends and then stick them back on again. Sustainable tapes, clothing. I'd love to do a sustainable range of motorsport products.
Yes,
I'd love to do that. And I've got, to be fair, I've got the contacts that we could do that. So I think just things like rally boards. And how do they make those rally boards, and can they be more sustainable? It's all the footprint things. I haven't organised a rally, so I'm probably not even touching on a lot of it. But I go to a lot of events, and you can see the infrastructure and the amount of people it takes to run an event safely. That has to obviously that safety always takes importance. So I'm really intrigued to see where we can take CPM, and the more chances we get, we're doing more and more racing this year. You'll see that we've got some announcements coming with racing championships. We're going to be looking to offset the BTCC juniors, which are coming next year. So that's a race series. That's another junior championship. We're always going to support junior championships. So, and we'll probably continue with the Swift again. And there's also a junior championship in Scotland. So we're going to do the BTCC juniors. I think it's just educating. We're back to square one. We've got to educate, and people have got to make a decision. And I don't want them. I would love to say, like the BBC, there are other companies out there doing it. At the minute, there isn't. But we have got a solution. I believe it's a cost-effective solution. Here's to give you an example. We had an 8-year-old girl the other day that came on, spent her pocket money, and offset £8 of fuel to go karting. So that was brilliant from an 8-year-old going karting, that she wanted to come online, and she'd read something, and mum said, do you want to offset your fuel? And she's going to be one of our ambassadors, and we're going to cover her offset. It's not going to be a lot of fuel, but the fact that this 8-year-old's doing it, that to me is the future of offsetting. It's about getting this younger element and they need to. They're on social media more
100%.
than you and I. They can talk about it. They can get a buzz about it. And Paul says it. We need to get a bit of a movement. We're not there yet.
Yeah.
We're not there
Absolutely.
yet. We need to get a bit of a
That's
movement.
it.
It will come. It will come. I'm sure it will. You know.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's it. And like I said, I like the fact that you are constantly thinking forward. You're thinking of the future. What products can be made? What can we do to always make that difference moving forward? And it's not just a case of just, oh, well, we've got this little thing now, and let's just focus on that. You're still looking at moving forward, which
definitely.
I think is the way you've got to go.
We have to sustain our company, so we have to find
Yes.
we have to find ways of and how we can help that. And I'd love to be able to sponsor drivers and give them all some money to help them. Help them. Our ambassador drivers, by the way, we have quite a few ambassador drivers. They don't get a penny. They get basically they get all their offsetting. And if we need them for any PR, obviously we pay towards some of their costs for travel costs and so on, basically. But our ambassadors do a fantastic job for us, and we never thank them. I never thank my ambassadors enough. So this is a chance for me to say thank you to everybody that's worked with us, and we really appreciate your support. Stick with us; we'll get through it together.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I know personally, it's a massive thing that motorsport is so big in the UK. And we've seen time and time again where sports are able to make a difference, whether that's socially, politically, environmentally. And motorsport is huge in the UK. It's so big, and there's so many areas, and there's so vast amounts of experience and love and passion that it is such a way we can do something, and we got to keep it going. I cannot imagine a world without motorsport. It is not acceptable.
Exactly.
Motorsport saved me growing up, and I just it's not acceptable. So, certainly my plan with this and myself as driving is always going to be to kind of promote them aspects and promote what we can do, because if we can, like you say, education and get it in the clubman all the way up to our top level, series and people, what's there not to be positive about? Basically, would be my argument.
Yeah.
And then it means that the future generations and the juniors get to do it, and we get to have this.
For me, a junior driver that we've supported should, whatever genre they decide to go in, should then be saying, well, actually, I've set when I was a junior, I want to offset going forward. And if we get that mindset continues, that to me, and there are a lot of there's a lot of older drivers as well that want to, they've got young families and they've got kids. If you go to the Irish Rally Championship now, I was there 10 years ago with like 20 WRC customer cars. That's how rallying was so popular. In fact, the WRC event in Ireland, we had more customer Subarus there than he did in the whole of the World Rally Championship. Wow. And now their sons are buzzing around in R5 cars. And that's at Ireland. We haven't quite mastered Ireland yet. We do Ulster Rally. We work with Ulster Rally, but there's the Cork and there's the Circuit of Ireland. We spoke to the Circuit of Ireland this year. It just wasn't quite right. We're going to do something next year. We want to do the Cork 20 Rally. We're definitely doing Ulster again this year. So we've just got to work with more and more events, and they've got to see the benefit in working with us. And they've also got to don't just let me bang on about it. I want events to bang about it, because then it helps the whole thing. You know what it's like. I'd rather somebody talk about my company than me banging on about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's been really good, Steve. It's been, like I said, I think really interesting. It's been great to hear what CPM are doing, the kind of that sort of motorsport background of yourselves, and just that passion and love, I think, and that's what comes across.
Thank you.
So what have we done? An hour and seven. So we'll wrap up, because otherwise we're going to continue on for an awful lot. We'll drop the information, obviously, for CPM on the website and the socials for people below this. And I mean, it'll be all over the socials anyway. But again, thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for supporting us as well in the motorsport, the rallycross and the rallying.
That's great. It's my pleasure. And if you ever want me to get back just to chew the fat about rallying in general, and all my days,
probably will, to be fair, because I think we could talk another hour easy.
And all my days at ProDrive and some of the stories I've got, I'll probably get me in trouble with some of them. I've got some interesting stories, but that's for another day. So thank you very much.
It sounds excellent. So subscribe and follow, because we'll do that at some point. 100%.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
Dave.
for the invite. Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank
Absolutely.
you.
All the best.
Right, that should now have stopped. Has it stopped? Does it crash? Yeah, stop.
No.